Alright guys, so this video is about the Stingray Dashboard. Now, the Stingray Dashboard and Stingray strategy is the result of around 2 years of developing, coding, trading, trying and failing over and over again. It literally cost us millions of dollars to get to this point where we developed the strategy. And we coded it in the most straightforward, efficient, and robust way as we could, and this is the result of that. So the Stingray strategy really takes all the theories and mechanics that we have found in the market until now and bundles them together. Essentially what it is that if me or any of my partners or Alex or whoever would trade a market without any strategy, just based on our experience and our intuition, this is how we would trade it. And the reason that is even possible in the first place is because we have built so many indicators, strategies, and so many things in the past where we were able to blend them together and align them in a way where they can give a sentiment on the overall market. So right, this is the Stingray Dashboard, and here we have a bunch of settings which we'll go in later on. But this is, for example, Bitcoin on a daily time frame, and as you can see, if you were just trading this blindly, you would do very, very well here, right? The arrows obviously are entries, and then the dots are take profit levels. The red ones are for the shorts, and the green ones are for the longs. Now, we can add in a couple things here that we can use. For example, the breakouts and the anchors. That is something that is more in detail, but we'll get into that later. And in order to go through it really in detail, we should go to different time frames. So let me set up the 15-minute here, and we'll see what's going on. So let's just go to now. As you can see, it did very well in the past. I mean, it does well all the time, essentially, right? So there's two indicators here that can give you a little bit more of detail, but these indicators are only there when you're in the development version of the strategy. In the normal retail version or consumer version, those indicators are not going to be there. You'll just see this chart, but this is the 15-minute, and as you can see, whenever there's a range or a breakout of that range, and now that's important, you will have moves up and down, as any market does, and those moves are, well, the strategy, what the Stingray does is it specifies the specific times when the market's going to turn around or the range is going to turn around, and this works very, very well because it's a core market principle, right? And so yeah, there's that, and we can also go into more detail. If I show the breakouts here now, and we can change all of this, but what a breakout is essentially is an estimate in the market where it reads a bunch of indicators and a bunch of price action also from other time frames, and it tells you, okay, when this happens, when this breakout happens, then the move is confirmed, right? It breaks out of a range that's calculated, the move is confirmed, and at that point, whenever that happens, that means that you will never lose money on that trade, because what this means is that you're going to put your stop loss to break even. So whatever happens, you will either lose money or break even, right? So that's that's an example. We can also add in the anchors, which will now go more into the significance of every move, every point, and then how we calculate those points or the signals off of those points, which is again something where I could talk about for hours, but the main idea is the strategy itself, right? Now we have a couple settings here, and that's why I have the indicators here, so I can see what settings there are, right? So essentially there's two indicators here, and in the back end of this are probably 50 other indicators, but these ones give you an overall idea of the strategy and dashboard. So you got the RSI and you got the ROC. The RSI is the relative strength index, and it's not that uncommon to trade with it, right? What we're looking for in here is a filter, essentially, where we only trade signals that are outside of the neutral zone in the RSI, which, you know, in theory would give you, the RSI gives you an oscillation of, right, so you have your market, right, you have a price action, and there's, you know, an average price, there's an agreed upon fair price, right? So, and that's how the market works. That's why, you know, the price is there right now. If there are more sellers than buyers, it will go down. Vice versa, it will go up. But right now, it's stagnant at, say, 27,657 and 44 cents on Bitcoin. Right? That's the fair price. That's the agreed upon price. And you see in this range, you know, it's been the agreed upon price for, you know, a while now. So you have your agreed upon price, and then what an oscillator does, or, you know, relative strength index, is telling you how far the price is from the agreed upon price. In theory, right? It's not perfect. That's why you need a lot of other stuff, but in theory, that's what it tells you. So the further the RSI is from 50, the more overbought or oversold the market is, right? So the theory is that, you know, we have our indicators, we have our strategies in the back, but we will only take those strategies if our signals, you know, for shorts are in a market that's overbought, sorry, and vice versa for oversold for longs, which would mean that, you know, we filter out a big amount of trades where the likelihood of profit or of winning trade is lower, significantly lower than the ones that are up here. This is just by, you know, testing and developing the probability of a signal on a 15-minute on Bitcoin that is, you know, on the overbought or oversold level on an RSI, and then also the ROC, by the way. If a signal appears there, the chance of it moving, at least, I'm not sure the exact number, but like in a few points, is like 98%. Incredibly high, right? So if you set that up with a one-to-one risk to reward, there's nothing you have to do anymore, right? You can just trade it. And so that's probably the most conservative approach to this, but also the most safe approach, where you can literally just have this run without thinking about it, is when you put a one-to-one risk to reward, and you know that these signals are very, very likely to move at least a few points, right? And you just take those few points. Whatever happens later on, you don't have to care about, right? Yes, it catches big moves. Yes, you can probably maximize your profitability to like hundreds of percent spot if you optimize this, but, you know, just the base level of it, just do a one-to-one risk to reward and you'll be fine, right? So the profitability here is like 98%. Here it's like, well, 90 instead of 98, but that's a big difference over a long amount of trades, and that's where we filter it out. That's the same thing here, except, you know, it doesn't go over 50. There's a standard deviation over the ROC, and we only take trades that are outside of the ROC. And you will see that, you know, different coins, different time frames will have different settings here, default settings here, which are settings that I made that I trade, right? But there's other settings that you can just test around. Look at the 4. I mean, it's beautiful, right? These are huge moves. This is from 24.93 with the first take profit at, this is the close price, 27.7, right? You'll probably set up take profit levels. These are huge moves. Look at this one. It's insane moves. Crazy. So with these settings, right? So the settings change every time you change the time frame, but these are custom settings and you can play around with them as much as you want. So the RSI, the days back really is just a look back period. There's a maximum look back period. You can look back. If you just go to 30 days, then, you know, you just see less data. That's not really that relevant. The RSI levels are the filter, right? So that's this red line here. If I increase the upper RSI to like 90, say, right? So the RSI needs to cross 90 in order to take any trades into account. All the trades disappear, right? So let me just put that back. This is just to show you what the RSI does. Then we have our retrace. Now we're getting more into detail, but this is why I show it. I encourage you to play around with it as much as you can, and every single member in this Discord can have their own, you know, setting combination that will work for them, right? That's what this is based on. So essentially think about it like this. You have this dashboard, right? This is your gauge cluster for the market, right? And it will tell you when to buy, when to sell. Now, these are settings. This is like the encryption, so to speak, right? You have pretty good default settings on it already, but you can play around. Now, with the data that's in the backend, plus these settings here, you can basically make any make profit off of any move in the market, every single move. So if you think about it ahead, it's like, okay, well, if I find the right combination, right, right now, there is a combination of these settings that will give me an incredibly good performance, like hundreds of percent in a month, right? Combination here, right? So essentially, this is the password. The password that you apply into this dashboard, and when you apply the right password into this dashboard, then you will have a performance that will be very, very good, right? And then depending on the quality of the password that you put in here, the better or worse your strategy is going to be, or your performance is going to be. So what I would say is, I mean, you have really good default settings there already, right? But I would encourage you to test around and get settings and get results that are better than the ones that are there, right? Try to outperform me. Now, what we'll add in here is another simulator, as well as the like similar to the other dashboards, where you will see the performance in numbers, but you will see it here already. I mean, here, you have your TP levels, you have your entries, so you see that, this setting is going to go well, and you wouldn't see anything different in backtest, but we'll add backtest in here too. So let me go back to the settings here. The RSI explained. The breakout channel is the strength of these blue and purple dots, and like I said, when this dot happens, you're supposed to put your stop loss to break even, meaning that the price will not move against you anymore. If it does, you break even and you make money on the upside, right? So this diminishes your risk incredibly by multiple orders of magnitude, simply because at a very early stage, this indicator will tell you, okay, this trade looks good, and because it looks good, there's no reason to lose money on this. So, and you can check, right? You can play around with this. If I put this to a 3, then those will move, of course, quite a bit further. But if you play with this and you have these settings here and you see that square, you know that this trade is looking good, and I do not have to lose money on this. And you can check in the backtest, or like in the history, how many times this square happens on a trade. And every single time it happens on a trade, you're guaranteed not to lose money on that trade. So that by itself, right, even if the hit trade, even if the strategy itself was not good, just trading that and doing stop loss to break even on that would make you profitable, right? So there's, like I said at the beginning, after many years of developing this, there are all the tricks, like, yeah, you can say tricks, but really just knowledge or experience that we've accumulated, put into the strategy, all blended together. So there's so many fail safes, right, and so many ways of making profit, where this does not compare to anything else that I've ever seen. So the retracements, right, this is now another factor in the strategy, but essentially it's this yellow line. Right now the yellow line is above the red line, so it really has no effect. However, if I put this yellow line down, this yellow line checks the retracement, right? So let's say we go above the RSI level, right, above the red line, which we have set here. Now, in order to have a second point that we can calculate with, the RSI needs to retrace below the yellow line. So in this case, right, we have a retrace here at 56. So if I put the bearish retrace to 50, then this will disappear because the RSI did not retrace down, right? So this is there in order to filter out, or really make sure that the points that we're calculating are separate points and not the same points, right? Because if those points happen in the same RSI move, then they are less relevant. However, if we make sure that the RSI comes back and then goes there, and then there's a point, then that point has a much higher weight. Once again, experience that we put into this that aligns with all the other stuff, that just multiplies the result, right? And now we have 3 filters, right? The 3 filters are the RSI multiplier, the diff threshold, and the max anchor time. So the max anchor time is simple. That basically gives a timeout to every point here, meaning that if you have a point and nothing for a very long time, then after 100 candles, that point is not relevant anymore. It's not being calculated. This really is more relevant in low volatility coins that don't move for a long time, because we don't want the moment where a completely new move, a completely new market happens, but we're still taking into account the pivot points that the points that happened months ago. So that's this. That's pretty simple. And now we have these two, and you will play around with these two more as you go into lower time frames. And higher time frames, they're not that relevant really. They just take away from the profitability. But in the lower time frames, you have much more noise, so these ones help a lot. So first one is the ROC, standard deviation multiplier, and we kind of crossed that already. It's pretty similar to the RSI, except there's no two straight lines with two values. It is a band essentially with the multiplier above the ROC, above the ROC average, well, standard deviation really. So every time we cross above, it is a valid signal, and below it's not. And let's say, if I put this to like a 5, then you'll see that those lines, they moved all the way up, and we don't have any signals here now. So with this one, you will see that it helps in many situations. The situation not here now, but if you have huge moves and then low volatility, then in that if you have low volatility for a long time, then all your indicators over time, because they all have a window, when the entire window is in low volatility, they get adjusted to that low volatility, even though there's no moves happening, right? So when that happens, you will get a lot of false signals, and this ROC band, right, multiplier helps with that, because if you have low volatility, then the ROC is going to be within the band, and we're not going to trade. And the last one is the RSI Diff Threshold. So that one checks the difference in value between the points, right? And if they're too close together on a y-axis, right, so if they're not above or below, but they're basically at the same level, then the strength of that signal is much lower for many reasons in the back end again, but the strength is essentially lower. So now we're saying that by 0.3 points up and down, basically have a band, we're not going to take signals if the RSI points are too close together on the y-axis. So those are basically all the settings, and now you have, many points. You have 100. You basically have multiple thousand, millions of variations here. And by understanding the dashboard, understanding the theory behind it, and playing around with the settings and adjusting the settings, I will guarantee you will find better settings that we have on right now. And the beauty of that is that if people try out different settings, we will be trading the same market with different signals, meaning that the liquidity is never going to be an issue. And this is why it's beautiful to use in a community like this. And the back-end computations, the amount of indicators and strategies that go into this is incredibly high. So the variation, the possibility for variation is there, right? And this is just a testing window. I have it locally, but it's going to be on our server, and we will add in all stocks, all coins, whatever you want to do. I've just optimized these ones, that's why they're there. I love to trade ES, some of you know that, and even here, like the points that it does here, that's all I need to trade. Same with here, like these moves are gigantic. What I do is I do a 1-to-1 risk to reward on ES, and trade these, and then also I see the sentiment of ES. I see, okay, is ES on a long or in a short right now, and based on that I can trade other things like Bitcoin or other indexes, or the SPY, for example, right? So yeah, that's basically it. It's a small explanation of the Stingray dashboard, and I would encourage everyone to try it out, play around with it, and then just trade. We will add in signals as well, meaning that there's going to be a Telegram group where signals will just go out, and then we have the possibility for auto trading as well, which is something that I'm doing myself. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm sure you'll have questions and we can discuss them all in the Discord, and I'll see you there.